Sweet, nostalgic, chewy. Licorice feels harmless, almost comforting. It shows up as candy in childhood memories, as tea in health stores, as an herbal ingredient that feels familiar. But licorice did not begin as a treat. For thousands of years, this root carried medical authority, long before modern medicine existed, long before blood pressure could be measured, or even the hormones were known to be existed. Ancient civilizations trusted licorice not because it tasted good, but because it helped people survive. So why today does modern medicine place warnings around it? To answer that, we have to slow down. We have to move through mythology, then tradition, and only then biology. Because skipping that order is where confusion begins. Mythology and civilizational authority. Licorice appears in multiple ancient civilizations that never interacted. That alone tells us something important. In ancient China, licorice was called gan kao, often translated as the harmonizer. This name mattered. Licorice was not the strongest herb in traditional Chinese medicine. It was not the rarest or the most aggressive. Instead, it was believed to balance, moderate, and support. It softened harsh remedies. It stabilized formulas. It helped the body endure stress rather than collapse under it. In many classical prescriptions, licorice appears quietly, not as the star, but as the stabilizer. Ancient Greece, licorice was documented by physicians like Dioscorides, who described its use during long journeys, especially in environments where thirst, fatigue, and physical strain were constant. And in ancient Egypt, licorice roots were found among burial goods, a signal of value, not superstition. Across cultures, licorice was not mystical, it was respected. Traditional use, what it was actually used for. Here's the key mistake modern audiences make. They assume ancient medicine tried to do what modern medicine does. It didn't. Ancient medicine focused on endurance, not eradication. Licorice consistently appears in 4 contexts. Licorice was used for fatigue support. It was used during illness, to suppress hunger, and to manage stress. Not as a cure, but as support. When food was scarce, licorice helped suppress discomfort. When illness lingered, it helped people keep functioning. When stress and exhaustion threatened survival, it offered resilience. This wasn't placebo. People across civilizations noticed similar effects, but ancient healers couldn't see what was happening internally. They felt the outcome, not the mechanism. The scientific turn, measurement replaces belief. Modern medicine did not dismiss licorice. It measured it. And measurement changed everything. Licorice contains a compound called glycyrrhizin. Once inside the body, glycyrrhizin interferes with an enzyme called 11-beta-hydroxysteroid dehydrogenase type 2. That enzyme normally acts as a protective gate. Its job is to prevent excessive cortisol activity in sensitive tissues. When licorice interferes with that gate, cortisol becomes more active and stays active longer than intended. This explains ancient observations perfectly. Licorice didn't give energy, it amplified the stress response. Ancient people felt endurance. Modern biology sees hormone modulation, same effect, different understanding. Why modern medicine warns? Here's where context becomes critical. In ancient times, use was intermittent, doses were low, and variable exposure was short-term. Its availability was limited compared to the modern era. In the modern world, licorice appears in multiple forms such as candy, teas, supplements, and extracts. Doses are concentrated and standardized, and use can become daily and chronic. When cortisol signaling remains elevated over time, the body begins to pay a price. Documented effects include elevated blood pressure, potassium depletion issues, fluid retention concerns, cardiac stress in vulnerable individuals. These are not opinions. They are reported in peer-reviewed clinical literature. The plant didn't change, the exposure did. Who is actually at risk? Nuance section. This is where online discussion often collapses into extremes. Licorice is not universally dangerous. Risk depends on dose, the highest the riskier. Duration of use. Individual physiology and susceptibility to side effects. Higher risk groups include people with heart disease, especially those on diuretics or blood pressure medications. Individuals with kidney disease. Long-term high-dose consumers. Short-term exposure is not the same as chronic intake. Science isn't issuing a moral judgment, it's defining biological limits. DGL clarification, common confusion. You may hear about DGL, or the deglycyrrhizinated licorice. This form removes glycyrrhizin, the compound responsible for cortisol effects. That dramatically changes its physiological profile. But DGL is not whole licorice root. Different chemistry, different biology, and different conversation. Confusing the two is one of the most common sources of misinformation online. Intellectual resolution. Ancient medicine wasn't wrong. It worked without instruments. Modern medicine isn't dismissing tradition, it's drawing boundaries. Licorice sits at the intersection of both worlds. Trusted, because it worked. Warned about, because context changed. Understanding that difference is the real lesson. If you want a deeper breakdown, mechanisms, dose context, and real-world risk, continue with the next video in this series. Because natural doesn't mean safe, and it doesn't mean dangerous. It means biology matters. The information in this video is grounded in peer-reviewed medical research, historical medical texts, and international public health references. These sources reflect both ancient understanding and modern biological evidence, allowing tradition and science to be examined together. This video is provided for educational and informational purposes only. It is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease, and it does not replace professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. The information presented reflects historical usage, traditional practices, and current scientific understanding as described in peer-reviewed medical literature and authoritative public health sources. References to ancient or traditional medicine are included for context and education, not as endorsements or recommendations. Herbal substances, including licorice, Glycyrrhiza glabra, can have biological effects and may interact with medical conditions or medications. Individual responses vary depending on dose, duration, preparation, and personal health status. What is safe or appropriate for one person may not be safe for another. Viewers should not self-diagnose, self-treat, or alter prescribed medical therapy based on this content. Always consult a qualified healthcare professional before making decisions related to health, supplements, or medications. No specific products, brands, dosages, or treatment protocols are recommended or implied. Any discussion of potential benefits or risks is presented in a general educational context, not as clinical guidance. The creator of this content assumes no responsibility for actions taken based on the information provided. Use of this material is at the viewer's discretion.